What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Forgo, and today we're going to talk about Nightcrawler and what Netmarble has done for this character. Well, the first thing they did was they made him look pretty damn cool. This uniform is an absolute beautiful uniform, and I know I say that all the time, but they really do a good job as far as aesthetics. And the uniform is definitely the strongest version of Nightcrawler that we've seen so far, and that's pretty cool. But unfortunately, the bad news is Nightcrawler is probably mainly just going to be still a Shadowland character for most players. I do think that if he's awakened and transcended, he might actually surprise you and actually might do very well in World Boss. I don't think he's going to do very well against Knull, and we'll talk about why. So, what did they do for this guy? Well, they actually changed his tier 2 passive. You can see here that we have 35% increase of all attack and defense of summon characters, and then the increased skill damage by 35%, increased bonus damage by 30%. And if you equip the old uniform, you get a 20% increase to all attack and defensive summon characters. So he got a nice little buff to his summons, which is good, but we really want buffs to him. And as far as what else they've done, 4-star passive is now different. This is really nice. This is an amazing 4-star passive that they did for him. They gave him an increase all attack by 30%. And all defenses by 30% for 12 seconds. And this also has a 50% damage proc for one attack. And then, of course, you get the increased dodge rate. Whereas before, it was only a 20% all attack. So a massive difference in the passive that they did for him, which is really nice. The 1 and the 2 are exactly the same as they were before. But the third skill, they made a massive change to this. This did just have a guard hit on it, but they also gave this 4-second immunity to all damage, and it gave him a paralysis that actually works in World Boss. Whereas before, he didn't have that. He didn't have any kind of form of CC, and he just had that guard. The immunity is way better, so I'm really happy that they did that. That's freaking amazing. And then the 4th skill, this is nice. They gave him a 40% increase of all attack and a 25% increase to critical rate for 10 seconds. Very sweet what they did here. But in the 4th skill here, you can see it was just a 15%. So we got an extra 25% and an extra 15% of crit rate. 25% all attack and 15% crit rate. Massive buff differences. Really loving that. And then the 5th skill, we get 3 seconds of invincibility and we get an all defense down. This is pretty sweet because before he didn't have any invincibility. All he had was just an iframe. So it's nice they gave him that invincibility even though he's in an iframe. And the all defense down is nice. However, the bad thing about this is the all defense down, it starts off at 2.5% and it goes up to 50%. And you can use White Fox with Nightcrawler. He does have the leadership tag, so he does benefit from her damage dealt to supervillains, but he also will benefit from the all debuff effect leadership. If this all defense down was higher, it would be so much better. And something I want to show you all is if you do have him awakened, you might see you will see a massive difference. Since this skill here does have an all defense down that stacks up to 60%. And with White Fox's leadership or Dr. Voodoo or Enchantress with the new uniform, you'll have 84% all defense down. And actually, when you preview the skill, you actually can find that you actually can do a rotation where you can use your all defense down from the 5th skill and the awakened skill together. So when he's transcended, he's going to be way better against the regular world bosses, of course, except against the last 2 phases of Thanos. And I just don't think he's going to be very good against Knull. But you can cancel the 4th skill immediately and actually get the buff, which is really nice. You can see here we got the 40% attack buff, and there's his buff from his passive, which is sweet. That's a lot of extra buffs. That's 70% increase to attack. And the rotation that I'm doing is I'm going 4 and then 5. Now look at how long it takes for the all defense down to apply. And boom. At the very end, it applies. That really sucks. I wish it would have started off at the very beginning because his all defense down, it starts off 2.5% and it goes up to 50%. So he's going to have to land a lot of hits in order to cap his all defense down. And he just doesn't do it. The 5th skill just doesn't do enough hits to really do that. But let me show you something. Well, first, let's just preview the skills. You got the second skill. This is a really good skill for survivability because it is a nice iframe. The world bosses will kind of stand still. They won't know what to do when you're in iframe, so that's really nice. The 1 skill, is a partial iframe, a skill I'd probably stay away from. And then the third skill is sweet because you do get the paralysis that will work in World Boss, and you do get the immunity. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 4, canceling the 5, get the buff, and then go into the 5, try to put the damage proc on the 5. And then at the end, I'll go into the 2 skill, and then I'll hit the 3rd skill. Then we'll paralyze the boss, and then go back into the 4-5. Now let me show you something really, really cool. So we'll just wait. Now look at how fast the all defense now applies from the awakened skill. And boom, there it is. There it is. You can see it. I can't get my cursor on there to show y'all. But there's the all defense sound from the awakened skill. Now the cool thing about this awakened skill is you can actually cancel this thing very easily with a damage proc. And this is why I say when he's transcended, he really is going to be a lot better because he's going to get the extra stats, of course. But he's also going to get this big all defense sound, and then of course all the buffs from the awakened skill. So you can actually hit your awakened skill, all 3 of them come down, then hit the 4-5. You'll get the buff from the 4. At the very beginning, you'll get that tier 2 passive that gives you the buff, and then you go into the 5, and then you'll get all that all defense down all at once. Your 5th skill's all defense down will actually fill up the cap from the awakened skill's all defense down. I just wish that they started off more than 5% and 2.5%, because let me show you something. So if we move this guy over to the corner here, Hawk works really good for this. Change this back to Kurt. So look at how many hits he does. 16 hits. It's not near enough to fill up the cup for the all defense sound. And that's really what hurts him. You know, they gave him these buffs, but he isn't able to really build up his all defense down very fast, and that's actually really hurting him. However, if you have him awakened and you have him transcended and you use his awakened skill, he'll have the all defense down that starts off at 5%, and then he'll be able to fill up the cap or the cup with the 5th skill. So I think he's going to be a lot better then, but I don't think he's going to be a null clear. I do think he's going to be pretty good against the world bosses. Currently, right now, without his awakened skill, no. He is pretty subpar, as y'all see in a little bit. He has a stage 6 power of Angry Hawk set. He has 140% damage proc, and he doesn't have any Urus. His gears are at 20, but he is a level 70 character. And his uniform is just at normal. And as far as his uniform effect, this is something else they changed. They gave him 20% chain hit damage, and then on the other one he had 5%. So that's a massive change as well. So you would think with all these changes he'd be really, really strong, but he's way better for sure, but he just isn't strong enough. So we're just going to do a stage 50. We're going to put White Fox in leadership. We'll have the 50% damage on supervillains from Valkyrie, and then we'll throw in Nightcrawler. And you know, stage 50 is really all I ever do because that's where you're going to get the maximum red booty boxes, the best booty boxes. Your rewards don't get no better past stage 50. So I really wish they'd put his all defense down at the beginning of the 5th skill. That would have been way better. The fact that it comes at the end, just, it really hurts. His damage would have been so much better. But maybe they did that because of the way the awakened skill is set up. So we're just going to hit the 4 and then the 5. We're going to go into the 2 and then the proc triggered actually on the 2 skill. This is another thing that kind of sucks is his proc a lot of times doesn't want to trigger when it should. Like there, I was accounting for the proc getting off and it still didn't trigger when we wanted it to. There we go, come on. Yeah, it's just... There we go, and there I got the swords involved. And the proc triggered actually on the 3rd skill. He's really funky to play, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the proc is just way off. And he's got that 9-second cooldown on the fifth skill. That doesn't really help his cause. But we are pretty much on pace to do this. Over here. Over here. But barely. I mean, we're barely going to do this. Woo. He does have good movement speed. He does run around really well. And there the proc triggered when we wanted it to, which was really good. Okay. He just, you know, when you have a character like this, a character that just doesn't really put out the damage, and I realize he isn't built really well, but there are plenty of characters that we have these days that are built, that have the same kinds of builds and can murder stage 50, unfortunately, right? But it's, I mean, he can put out, you know, some decent damage, definitely a lot better than what he was before. He definitely would have had trouble doing this before. But we're going to go ahead and stop it. So, I mean, we are on pace. We can do stage 50. But the thing is, guys, you know, and I hate to say this. I really hate repeating this. I can't stand saying this all the time. But it is Marvel Knull Fight. And a character like Nightcrawler, people just, they're not going to, I mean, unless they love him, right? We all have our favorites, right? Nightcrawler's a freaking amazing character. And I wish they would have done more for him. I'm actually really curious as to how good he would be with his Awakened skill, because I showed you guys, if you use this Awakened skill, you can easily bring in the Gambit and X23, go into your 4, get your buff from your 4, you'll have your buffs from your Awakened skill, and then go into your 5th skill, or maybe go into a different skill, and put your damage proc on it, and probably do some decent damage. It probably wouldn't be too freaking bad. I'm probably never going to awaken this character, unfortunately, because of resources, because I want to awaken Gambit, and after I awaken Gambit, that's pretty much going to drain me of everything. And I just think that Gambit's a better choice, right? Because we want characters that can actually go against Knull, and Gambit can put in work against Knull. Still very curious to see what they do with Lovely here. So I really am let down by what Netmarble has done for this character. I think they could have done way more for him. They could have gave him more hits on his 5th skill. They could have dropped his cooldown on his 5th skill. Instead of being 9 seconds, they could have made it 8 seconds. That would have been a lot better. Been a lot easier to keep proc. They could have had him do more hits. The all defense sound could have came at the beginning of the 5th skill. There's lots of little tweaks and things they could have done to make him a whole lot better, but not be super, super overpowered. This is definitely the best uniform for him. If you want to make Nightcrawler the best that he can be, then this is an absolute must buy. But I think for most players, they're probably going to just skip this uniform because it's not really going to do anything for them, since it is Marvel Knull Fight. People want characters that they can use against Knull. But that's not to say Nightcrawler's a terrible character or this is a terrible uniform. It's not. It's a decent uniform for him, but it doesn't put him over the top. It doesn't put him in the meta by any means. So once again, you know, the second uniform, I feel like Nightcrawler really just got the shaft. I feel like he didn't really get what he deserved. And I realize that not all characters can be meta, but I would have thought they would have gave him a little bit more than this. However, I don't know how strong he would be with his Awakened skill. I really think with that thing and having that 84% all defense down with White Fox's leadership or Dr. Voodoo's leadership, you would see a pretty big difference in the amount of damage that he would do. Because for Gambit, they didn't put that all defense down as Awakened skill. But for Nightcrawler, they did. And the fact that his all defense down comes late on his 5th skill kind of gives me hope that he would do pretty decent in the regular world bosses. So let me know how you're all feeling about Nightcrawler, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.